Hey y'all, welcome back to Ray of All Trades. We have a curb find, Troy-Bilt mower with a Honda GCV 160 engine on it. Looks like a really nice looking mower. Don't know much about it. Deck looks good on it. Let's see. Motor feels really good. I know that it doesn't run. I was told it didn't run. Let's check this thing out and see what's going on. Maybe we can get ourselves a little backup mower. Love these Honda engines and that big wheel design. They're very sought after. So let's see if we can make this thing run. Oil level's full and it looks really clean. Give that sniff test to the old gasoline. Gas is half full and smells really good. Yeah, see, it's got a fuel shutoff. I'm pretty sure that that's flowing. Usually direction of the hoses is usually flowing. It's got the auto choke system. Brand new air filter on it. Just to make sure that it's making it to the shutoff valve, we're gonna pop this fuel line off real quick. I'm fairly confident that that's shut off, but just to be sure. Okay. Let's see if we can get any fuel. Oh yeah, it's just barely leaking fuel. It is working, but it's just barely leaking fuel. Let's find out if it's the shutoff valve or a restriction in the tank. Like I said, it probably would run in that fashion. You know, it probably would keep up because it doesn't need that much fuel. It's just slower than I'm used to seeing, so. All right, what happens if we release? Oh yeah, so that restriction's actually somewhere at the tank because it's just barely coming out of here. All right, so we're gonna be cleaning out that tank. I do wanna make sure that it at least starts, so give me just a second. Let's give this thing a little juice. And make sure she fires up. All right, so timing, compression, spark, all of that's good. We know we're dealing with a fuel issue. All right. The reason I want to take the carburetor off is the fuel was running slow, right? But it sat long enough that it should have filled up the bowl and started and then just shut down. Similar to when I sprayed that carb cleaner in the carburetor. I do know that it's running slow out to here, but I think we've also got a potential issue with the carburetor. And when it started up, I know that it doesn't have smell-o-vision out here, but it smelled like stale gas when it was running. Let's pull that breather off of there. Governor spring and then the governor linkage. And that gas actually looks, see how yellow and tinged it is as it's dripping? So that gas that's in there is actually more turpentine than anything else. That's another reason probably why it wouldn't run. Yeah, I smell it. So the carburetor was full. It just wouldn't start. Another reason that I'm fairly confident we need to clean out the carburetor and probably the jets. 10mm for the bowl. Yeah, I can already tell. Look at the dirt and what stuff that's on there. And there you go. So that's rust, corrosion, scaling. Can we get this pin out of here? Okay. Got the needle out. The jet, I'm going to see if I can get it out. Looking good so far. There we go, emulsion tube. And those orifices, the emulsion tube orifices, I cannot see daylight through them. So I'm positive that they're plugged. The main one, the main inside goes through just fine, but these side ones, the small ones, they're completely plugged. And then the main jet, I can see daylight, but I can promise you that it's just barely seeing daylight. It definitely is not opened enough. I think that covers the pilot jet. Let me see. I'm used to them being plastic. This is the same location for them. Oh yeah, all right, so that's the pilot jet. Let's go ahead and take that out. And we're not going to pull any of these Welch plugs. I very likely am going to have to use something like a sandpaper or an abrasive to get this bowl clean. If I can get this gasket off of here after like the first bit of cleaning, I will, just to protect that gasket. And let's get this thing in its first ultrasonic bath, probably first of several. Let me get this ultrasonic bath going, and then we'll look and see if maybe we can get to that gas tank. Let's get the starter off. Let's just pull that loose. Okay, while we're waiting for the carburetor to get ultrasonicked, let's get this fuel out of this thing. Want to see how slow that's leaking out of there? I do want to check, because something that will cause it to go slow is a vacuum. So loosen up the cap just to let air in to see if it speeds up any, and it doesn't seem to. Yeah, it's just got a little bit of a restriction somewhere. Let's pinch that. Let's get majority of this gasoline out of this thing. It's got a normal dye to it. They dye fuel. Usually fuel doesn't have any dye in it at all. So they add dye to it to determine like which which octane it is, what additives they put in, who's the manufacturer, like who's selling it, things like that. Pure raw gasoline doesn't have a dye to it normally. So that yellowish tinge you see right there is just, should be normal 87 octane most likely. Depends on which station, all that other stuff. They used to have a gas, and I want to say it was called the Amoco Pure Ultimate, something like that. And they were talking about how pure the gas was because it had no color to it. You know, it was just pure clear, you know, which is kind of funny because it just meant that they didn't add any dye to it. So it was kind of cool. All right, so this is our problem, why we're looking at a slow fuel. Can you see the, maybe you can, you see all the dirt stuck around that filter right here on the very end? So I'm trying to pull some of it off so you guys can see what it looks like before I go cleaning it. So just gently pulling it off of there. You see that dirt coming off of it? Anyway. See how it went from a blackish color to a clear or to a whitish color? And just knocking the dirt off of that filter. And I'm going to say most likely that took care of our problem. Because now I'm just staring at a inside of a tank. Let's get that put back in. Now check this out. We are going to use a water separator fuel funnel. Let me see, this one's got some dirt in it. Let's pour this brand new gasoline through the water separator and cleaner. And that way if there's any kind of debris, it'll stop it. It's kind of funny, I literally just did this on another video and you could see that it basically took forever for it to come through. Then I reached the bottom of the, you know, what's there, what's filtered there. Because the filter doesn't go all the way to the bottom and it kind of catches a lot of the water and stuff like that, it just basically stops, you know, dumping fuel. But let's go ahead and dump this bag out. So, and then I've got some trash inside there. Some of it probably came from the tank. Some of it might have been in the jar, although I thought it was clean when I dumped it in. But anyway, now we know we have pure gasoline inside here. And just to make sure that what we did fixed the issue, let's check our flow now. Oh yeah, look how fast that is now. Hopefully that shows up on camera, but yeah, it's a significant difference now. Coil looks solid. I mean, this thing is just spotless clean, you know, as far as, not the grass, take that away, but the motor itself is just spotless clean. So kind of give you an idea of its runtime and its life within reason. You can never guarantee anything. All right, fixed our fuel flow problem. I'm going to anticipate that we don't have a problem with this shutoff valve. Let's just see. Yeah, no problem in the shutoff valve. And since it's working, we can actually plug this in, shut off the valve, and take off my hose clamp. Put my governor linkage back up. Tell you what, while we're waiting for the carburetor to finish, let's get this thing cleaned up. Blade cleaned up. Right, let me just, well, that's actually really good shape. But anyway, we're going to put a edge on it real quick. And we'll see if it's balanced, and then if it is, we're going to put it back on. This thing had a whole lot of pieces missing out of it, and that's why I took a whole lot from each side, and then I took the bottom edge off, which would have been all of the bent down pieces, and just basically put that edge back to it. It might be actually on a little bit too sharp side right now, but that won't last very long. So let me see if this thing's balanced. Yeah, it's pretty doggone balanced. It's hard to tell on this style. It doesn't have a good center to it. Right, it's tough to tell because you're trying to balance it on there, and I don't have the cone style that'll actually do it. But anyway, that's balanced enough. All right, let's see how the first wash did. Got some of it off. Okay, that's going to go back in. I'm actually starting to see daylight through the orifice tube. The main jet. Starting to come clean. Tell you what though, you're going to go back in. Just want to get that a little bit cleaner. The emulsion tube we're going to send back in one more time. The holding bolt actually got clean. I am not going to use that wire brush on this needle. It's got a rubber tip to it. And it actually cleaned up pretty well. Will this gasket come off yet? Okay, gasket came off. And then this is starting to come loose. So I'll tell you what, let's scrape that real quick and send it back in as well. Okay, you're going back in one more time. I'll be back. I think we might be able to make something happen with this. Bowl looks much better. There you go. Looks almost brand new. First time I saw it, I thought for sure we were going to end up having to replace it. So the main jet is definitely cleaner, but that center hole, while it's a little bit bigger than it was before, is still not big enough. Emulsion tube. Hard to tell. I don't know that I can see daylight anymore. I think maybe some more dirt's inside there. That's the float rod. And then let's clean out this. All right, make sure that if you're going to clean out the seat area, always clean from the seat side, because some of them have an O-ring inside there and it'll go launching. Clean out the pilot jet area. All right, let's see if we can get this cleaned out. Oh yeah, I can see light through there with no problem. And I want to make sure that I can get something through this one. Kind of funny because I just finished, you saw me just push this through it, right? Right now it's completely blocked by something. Let's see if I push it through the other way. I was going to try to show you guys the little pieces that come out of this. How small it can actually be of a piece and still block that opening. And if that opening is blocked, there's no fuel getting to the motor at all. Well, I don't know about all. There's the idle air bypass, things like that, but not enough to make it run. How about that? There we go. Now I can see through it. And it looks about a normal size now. When I say normal size, you'll just get used to it. There is a jet size on here. Let me see. It says, this jet size says, looks like it says 60. That has to do with how big that opening is. And if you have a drill index from like gas appliances, things like that, you'll see it'll match up, and most likely a 60 size drill bit is probably the size for it. Don't quote me on that. I believe that's what I'm saying is correct. Yep, it looks really good now. All right, so as you're looking at the orifice tube, there's a long side that's narrow here. That's the side that goes up into the carburetor. And just shake it back and forth. It should drop down into that opening, and you should see it coming through. Then take your jet, screw it back in. Remember that this is brass going into aluminum. Super easy to break either one of them. So just snug it up gently. Okay. So that part's working. Whoops, I almost messed up. Make sure that gasket's on there. If it's not, it'll leak fuel right here at this base. Not bone crunching. And then that pilot jet is right there. I'm just going to blow some carb cleaner through it. Tighten that back up. Let's get it back on the lawnmower and see if we can make this thing run. All right. So that Z-bin goes right in there like that. The governor spring, return spring, goes into that hole right there. We're going to just put this fuel line on to help us hold everything in place real quick. And once everything's there, this should all operate like that, right? There's a gasket that goes back here. So this side here lines up with the carburetor, and then you can see this gasket lines up like that. You can see the indentations. Anyway, it goes like this. Let's run those bolts through it. like that. So see your gaskets right here. So I nose up at the carburetor. Just set it in place. That auto choke just literally sits right behind the throttle and kind of pushes it open, or allows it to spring closed. All right, let's give this thing a try. Let's turn the fuel on. Give it a couple seconds to fill up, make sure it's not leaking. Let's try it out. Let's try a restart. I'll call that one a win. Little curb find, Troy-Bilt with a Honda engine. Nice little find. Hope you all got something out of the video. Really appreciate you hanging out. Catch you on the next one.